All right. So today we're diving into something that I think a lot of people dream about, taking their business global.
Hmm.
And specifically, we're going to look at Dubai.
Yeah.
Now, of course, going global can bring up all sorts of exciting possibilities, but then reality hits.
Right.
And you think about things like, how do I actually hire people internationally?
Yeah.
How does payroll work when you're dealing with different country? What about all those legal rules and regulations?
Yeah, it can feel overwhelming.
It can feel like a maze, honestly.
Absolutely a maze. It can feel like you're just completely lost.
Right.
But that's where, these ideas of EOs and EORs come in.
Okay.
Professional employer organizations and employers of record.
Right.
These can really help simplify that whole expansion process, especially when you're looking at a market like Dubai.
So they help you cut through that maze.
Exactly. They help you cut through the maze, make it much more manageable.
I like that.
Yeah.
So we've been looking at how a company like INS Global operates in this space.
Yeah.
They're actually set up to help businesses grow in over 80 countries.
Wow.
And that includes Dubai.
Okay.
And they essentially handle all those complicated HR things that we were just talking about. So what we want to do today is give you a clear picture of how PEO and EOR services actually work on the ground in Dubai.
Yeah.
And why choosing to go this route could really be a strategic advantage for your business.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's get down to the basics here.
Okay.
When we say PEO and EO in Dubai, what are we actually talking about?
So imagine you want to hire someone in Dubai, right?
Okay.
A PEO, a professional employer organization, partners with you to handle all the HR administration for those employees.
Gotcha.
So that includes getting payroll processed correctly, dealing with the local tax regulations, and making sure everything is legally compliant.
Okay.
They're the local experts on all those rules.
So it's like having an outsourced HR team in Dubai.
Exactly.
But my employees still work for me directly.
Yeah, that's a key difference.
Okay.
So now, how does an EO, an employer of record, differ from that?
Right, because that's where I get a little confused.
Yeah, and it is a little confusing at first.
Yeah.
So an EO in Dubai does everything a PO does.
Okay.
All that HR admin. But with a significant addition, an EO actually becomes the legal employer of your staff in Dubai.
Oh, okay.
So they take on that legal responsibility for employment.
Okay, so with a PO, my company is still the legal employer, but the PO just manages the HR.
Exactly.
But with an EO, the employees in Dubai are legally employed by the EO.
That's right.
Even though they're doing work for my company.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, so just to make sure I'm totally clear here.
Yeah.
With a PEO, the employment contract is between my company and the employee in Dubai.
Right.
But with an EO, the contract is between the EO and the employee.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting that INS Global offers both PEO and EO solutions in Dubai.
Mm-hmm.
So depending on, what a business needs, how much risk they're comfortable with,
Right.
they can choose the model that works best.
Exactly. It's all about finding the right fit
Right.
for your specific needs.
Okay, so we've talked about what they are.
Yeah.
But why would a company even consider using a PO or EO?
Right. What are the benefits?
Yeah, like what are the real wins here?
Well, for me, the first thing that comes to mind is legal compliance.
Okay.
Dubai, like any country, has its own specific labor laws and ways of doing things.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to figure all of that out when you're not local
Right.
seems like a recipe for headaches and potentially some pretty expensive mistakes.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, if you don't get it right.
So how do POs and EORs help with that?
Well, POs and EORs, they have this really deep on-the-ground knowledge of those specific Dubai laws.
Okay.
They understand all the nuances, and they can make sure that you're compliant every step of the way.
So you're not going to accidentally break some rule that you didn't even know existed.
Exactly. And that can save businesses a lot of money in the long run.
Right, because those fines can add up.
Oh, absolutely. They could be really hefty.
Yeah, so it's a safer and more direct approach.
It really is. It takes the guesswork out of it.
Okay, so you're saving yourself legal trouble.
Mm-hmm.
What about the cost and time involved in setting up in a new country?
Right, because that's another big hurdle.
It is. I mean, it's not a quick or cheap process.
No, it's definitely not.
So how do POs and EORs help with that?
Well, think about how long it takes to get a company legally registered in a place like Dubai.
Okay.
We're talking anywhere from 4 months to a year, depending on the specifics.
Wow.
Now, compare that to using a PO or EOR like INS Global.
Okay.
You could be up and running in about 5 days.
5 days
Yes.
versus a year.
That's a huge difference
That is a huge difference.
in how fast you can get things moving.
Wow. Okay, and what about the cost savings?
The numbers are pretty significant, actually.
Okay.
Using a PO or EOR can be as much as 80% cheaper
Wow.
than going through the whole company incorporation process.
That's a lot.
Yeah, and on top of that, they can often save you around $450 on average in administrative fees.
Okay, so you're saving time, you're saving money,
Mhm.
you're staying out of legal trouble.
Right.
What else makes this a good idea?
Well, think about what you really want to focus on.
Okay.
If you're expanding to Dubai, your main goal is probably to grow your business,
Right.
find new customers, build your brand,
Uh-huh.
all that good stuff. But dealing with things like payroll,
Okay.
finding the right people to hire, managing contractors,
Yeah.
that can really take your attention away from those core activities.
Yeah, it's all those behind-the-scenes tasks
Exactly.
that can eat up your time and resources.
Yeah, so by outsourcing all of that to a PO or EO,
Okay.
your company can put more energy into those growth strategies.
That makes sense.
And there's data to back this up.
Okay.
Companies that use PO or EO services tend to see a 7 to 9% higher growth rate
Wow.
and a 27% return on investment.
That's impressive.
Yeah, it's pretty significant.
So it's not just about avoiding those headaches.
Right.
It's actually about actively supporting your business growth.
Exactly. It gives you a competitive edge.
And you mentioned before getting into the market quickly, how does a PO or EOR specifically help with that?
It really comes down to not needing to go through that whole process of setting up your own legal entity in Dubai.
Okay.
With a PO or EOR, you can operate in Dubai without that initial hurdle.
So you don't have to wait for all that paperwork and red tape.
Exactly. And that can cut down your market entry time from potentially 6 months
Wow.
to just a matter of days.
So 2 to 5 days, you're saying?
In many cases, yes.
Versus 6 months.
Yeah, that's a huge advantage.
It is a huge advantage.
Imagine being able to start doing business months before your competitors.
Right. That speed to market could make all the difference.
Absolutely. It can be a real game changer.
I also saw something about having a single platform for all your HR needs.
Oh, yeah. That's another key benefit.
Okay, tell me more about that.
So a good PO or EO provider like INS Global
Okay.
will bring all those HR services together in one place.
So I don't have to deal with like 5 different companies.
Exactly. You have one partner that manages it all.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Yeah, it streamlines everything and makes the whole process more efficient.
Okay, so we've talked about all the benefits, but let's get into why a company might choose a PO or EO over setting up their own company in Dubai the traditional way.
Right. So why not just go through the whole incorporation process?
Yeah.
Well, as we've mentioned, incorporating in a foreign market is a big undertaking.
Okay.
It's not just filling out some forms.
Uh-huh.
You often need to have a legal and physical presence there.
So like an office space and all that.
Yeah, exactly. And that takes time, money.
Right.
And you have to navigate legal systems that you might not be familiar with.
Which can be a nightmare
It can be. Yeah,
if you don't have local experts on your team.
exactly. And that's where a PO or EO becomes so valuable.
Okay.
They allow you to operate in Dubai without going through all of that initial heavy lifting.
Okay.
You're essentially bypassing those bureaucratic and legal hurdles by using the PEO's existing infrastructure and expertise.
So they've already done all the hard work.
Exactly. They've already got the legal entity set up. They know the local law.
Right.
So you can hit the ground running.
So you're leveraging their setup and their expertise
Exactly.
to get started faster and easier.
That's the idea.
And I think you mentioned before that there's some data there how companies that use POs and EORs are more resilient
Yeah, that's right.
during tough times.
So during the pandemic, for example,
Okay.
companies that were using a PO or EOR were much less likely to have to close down than those that had gone through the full incorporation process.
So they were able to weather the storm better.
Yeah, they had that extra layer of support and flexibility.
Okay, so let's get practical here.
Okay.
How does INS Global's PO service actually work in the Dubai?
So they have a pretty straightforward process.
Okay.
It starts with them really understanding what you need.
Okay.
What are your business goals? What are your plans for Dubai?
So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
No, definitely not. It's all about tailoring the solution to your specific situation.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So once they understand your needs, they put together a plan.
Okay.
And the second step involves INS Global providing a legal entity in Dubai.
Okay.
This is the key part that allows you to bring on employees without setting up your own legal structure.
So they're acting as the legal employer in Dubai.
Correct. If you're using an EOR,
Okay.
or they're using their existing entity to handle the HR if it's a PEO setup.
Gotcha.
And then in the third step, INS Global takes care of all the administrative and legal stuff involved in hiring your employees
Okay.
and managing their payroll in Dubai.
So making sure everything complies with local laws, processing salaries, handling taxes, all of that.
Exactly. All those behind the scenes HR tasks.
Okay, so all that's taken care of.
Yeah. And then the fourth step is where your team comes in.
All right.
Your employees can then focus on their day-to-day work
Okay.
and help your business succeed in Dubai.
And INS Global continues to handle all those HR functions in the background.
Exactly. So everyone can focus on what they do best.
I like it.
Yeah.
So Dubai has its own specific rules when it comes to employment, right?
Absolutely. Every country does.
So what are some of the key things that businesses need to be aware of in 2024?
Well, for starters, employment contracts in Dubai have to be in Arabic.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And they need to be very clear about things like job responsibilities,
Okay.
compensation benefits, and the rules around ending employment.
So it's all very clearly spelled out.
Yeah, there's no room for ambiguity.
Okay.
These contracts can be for a fixed term up to 4 years with an option to renew,
Okay.
or they could be open-ended.
Gotcha.
Also, the probation period can't be longer than 6 months.
Okay.
And during that time, an employer can actually end the contract without giving a lot of notice or severance pay.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's something to keep in mind.
So what about working hours and overtime?
So the standard in Dubai is a maximum of 8 working hours per day
Okay.
and 48 hours per week.
All right.
But this is reduced by 2 hours each day during Ramadan.
Okay.
And if employees work overtime, there are limits.
Okay.
Generally no more than 2 extra hours a day, except in special cases,
Gotcha.
and they need to be paid extra for those hours.
Okay. And how much extra?
25% more for daytime overtime and 50% more for hours worked at night.
All right.
And Friday is the usual day off in Dubai.
Okay.
So the standard work week is Sunday to Thursday.
Interesting.
Now, if someone has to work on a Friday, they're entitled to either another day off
Okay.
or an extra 50% on their daily pay.
All right. So definitely some things that might be different from what businesses are used to.
Yeah, it's important to understand those cultural differences.
For sure. So what about holidays and vacation time?
So there are 10 paid public holidays in Dubai.
Okay.
And if an employee has to work on a public holiday,
Yeah.
they're entitled to both a day off in lieu and a 50% increase in their pay for that day,
Wow.
or a 150% increase if they don't take a day off.
Okay.
Now, when it comes to annual leave, it depends on how long someone has been with the company.
Okay.
If they've worked less than 6 months, they don't get any paid leave.
Right.
If they've worked between 6 months and a year, they get 2 days of leave for each month of service.
Okay.
And if they've been there for more than a year, they get 30 days of annual leave.
All right.
And interestingly, for those who've worked between 6 and 12 months,
Yeah.
any unused leave can't be carried over,
Oh, okay.
but it can be paid out on a monthly basis.
So it's use it or lose it, but you still get compensated.
Exactly.
Okay. That's a bit different.
Yeah, it's a unique system.
So what happens if someone gets sick?
Okay, so employees are entitled to up to 90 days of sick leave
Okay.
after they've completed 3 months of service after their probation period.
Okay.
Now, there's no paid sick leave during probation,
Okay.
but of those 90 days, only 45 are paid.
Okay.
They get their full wage for the first 15 days
Uh-huh.
and then half their wage for the next 30.
All right.
Now, if someone gets sick or injured because of their work,
Okay.
they get their full pay for the first 6 months
Okay.
and then half pay for another 6 months if they're still receiving treatment.
Wow. So they're well taken care of.
Yeah, the system is designed to protect employees.
And are there any other types of leave?
Yeah, so Muslim employees are also entitled to 30 days of unpaid leave, once for the Hajj pilgrimage.
Okay.
And for family leave, female employees who have worked for at least a year
Yeah.
get 45 days of fully paid maternity leave.
Okay.
And those who have worked for less than a year get 50% pay for those 45 days.
Right.
Plus, they can take another 10 days of unpaid leave if they want.
Okay.
And fathers are entitled to 5 days of paid paternity leave,
Okay.
which they can take within the first 6 months of the child's birth.
Wow. Dubai seems to have a pretty comprehensive set of labor laws.
Yeah, they've really thought of everything.
So what about things like taxes and Social Security contributions?
So this is often a big draw for Dubai.
Okay.
There's no income tax for individuals.
Wow.
The government mainly gets its revenue from things like corporate taxes,
Okay.
taxes on entertainment import duties.
All right.
A corporate tax was introduced in 2023 at a rate of 9% for profits above a certain level.
Gotcha.
Now, importantly, employees are legally required to cover the full cost of health insurance for their employees.
Okay.
And in the unfortunate event that an employee dies or becomes disabled due to a work-related injury,
Yeah.
their family or the employee themselves is entitled to compensation equal to 24 months of wages.
Okay.
And it's also worth noting that there's no legally set minimum wage in Dubai.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a very market-driven system.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of the legal details, but I'm sure some people listening might still have some questions.
Of course.
So, for example, can a company just send their existing employees to work in Dubai
Okay.
without setting up anything locally?
Generally speaking, no.
Okay.
To comply with local labor laws,
Uh-huh.
it's usually necessary to have a legal entity established in the country where your employees are working.
And that includes Dubai?
Yes, definitely.
So for a company based outside of Dubai that wants to have a team on the ground there,
Right.
what are their main options?
So the two main ways to do this are either to set up their own legal entity in Dubai,
Okay.
like a branch office or a subsidiary,
Right.
or to use the services of a local PEO or EO.
Like INS Global.
Exactly,
Oh.
which can legally hire staff on their behalf.
That's right.
So can you just clarify one more time, what exactly is the employer of record responsible for?
Sure. So the employer of record is the legal entity that carries the responsibility for the employees in that specific country.
Okay.
And that includes a whole range of tasks.
Okay.
Like managing the employment contracts, handling payroll, making sure all the taxes are paid correctly,
All right.
dealing with Social Security contributions, processing any expense claims.
Okay. And overseeing the whole process of hiring and, if necessary, terminating employment.
So basically everything that comes with being an employer.
Exactly. All the legal obligations.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And lastly, what kind of time frame are we looking at for expanding internationally using these different approaches?
So if you're partnering with an existing PO or EOR like INS Global,
Okay.
you can typically expect to have an employee working in Dubai within about a month.
All right.
However, if you decide to go the route of incorporating a new subsidiary, the timeline could be much longer, usually ranging from 4 to 12 months.
Wow. Okay. So the speed advantage of using a PO or EOR is pretty significant.
It can be, yeah, especially if you need to get up and running quickly.
All right. So we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
What are the real key takeaways for someone listening who's thinking about expanding their business into Dubai?
So the core benefits of using a PO and EO like INS Global for your Dubai expansion really come down to a few key things.
Okay.
You get simplified compliance with all the local rules.
Right.
You save a lot of money and time when entering the market. You can stay focused on growing your core business instead of getting bogged down in HR administration.
Right.
And you can achieve that rapid entry into the Dubai market, giving you a potential edge over your competition.
Okay, so it sounds like navigating the complexities of international expansion doesn't have to be this huge obstacle.
No, not at all.
With the right support, it can be a much smoother process.
Exactly, and a more strategic one.
And going global holds so much potential.
It does.
Especially in a dynamic market like Dubai.
Absolutely.
So if you're listening to this and the idea of taking your business to Dubai is something you're seriously considering, now's the time to explore those options.
Yeah, definitely.
Reach out to INS Global today.
Tell them about your expansion project.
Their team can walk you through how they can provide tailored support
for all your global hiring needs
and help you tap into that exciting potential of the Dubai market.
It's a great opportunity.
It is.